You should never date anyone younger than you if you're a woman, ever. Okay? Especially if you're in your 30s. I have a theory. I have a philosophy.
Wait, wait,
Oh,
wait.
yeah.
This is an extreme opinion.
It is. 20 years of doing this, okay? And this is not just an opinion, it's based on my
Okay.
work. And you're not going to find a study to prove this. And I'm sure there are going to be 100 comments on here that saying I'm wrong. And this is my conclusion. I believe that 37-year-old men on online dating sites and apps, or single men in general, whether you're on an online dating site or an app or out in public at an event or at networking, right? At age 37 for men, 50% of 37-year-old men are going to waste your time.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Love, Laughs, and Lessons. And of course, we are here with Denise Rai, my co-host, who's amazing, and another awesome guest who Denise will introduce.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Frankie. It is so amazing to be able to share this space. I'm thrilled to introduce our guest today, Louie Felix. Louie has been the cornerstone in matchmaking for over 2 decades. Really renowned for shaping how thousands find love with his innovative approaches. His journey began in 2004, right in the heart of Beverly Hills, where he played a pivotal role in the acquisition of a high-end matchmaking company. This experience lit a fire in him that has only grown. Louie has led some of the biggest matchmaking firms in the U.S., orchestrating successful matches for over 50,000 plus clients. Today, he heads Matchmaking VIP in Los Angeles, an exclusive service that prides itself on a unique logic-based method, bringing almost 70% of his clients into meaningful relationships within months. Yeah, you heard that right. Yeah. In addition to his work at Matchmaking VIP, Louie is the COO of Agape Match in New York City, one of the premier matchmaking agencies globally, and the co-founder of Match Resource, an innovative company that supports matchmakers worldwide. Louie's impact has been recognized widely, making him a featured expert on networks like WeTV, and the CW. He's often sought after for his profound insights into relationships, and we are ecstatic.
Hi, Louie.
Hi, I'm actually so much more excited to be here with Dr. Frankie and with you, Denise. I'm so honored and it's such a privilege. And I thank you so much for having me. I want to hire you to introduce me because that was amazing.
Well, Louie, look at all the amazing things you've done.
It's crazy. It's insane. And my first thought was, oh my God, she just aged me for 2 decades. And then I looked at the camera and I saw this gray hair and I thought, well, Skipping really aged me. I guess I'm pretty old now.
You're still so handsome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's very nice. That's very nice.
Well, we wanted to have you on for many reasons, but one specific reason is that you've been in a long-term relationship that's worked really well. And we often get questions from our coaching clients, which is like, what's the secret? What makes it work? And I would love to hear from you what your thoughts are around that.
Wow, that's a loaded question. So I think for the viewers, I think the first thing you should know is I was not prepared for what we were going to talk about today. So this is literally
how
the plus, right? Like I'm literally gonna make this up on the spot. So this is great. You are correct. I've been with my partner for 24 years this December. It's actually New Year's. This New Year's Eve is 24 years.
Oh, congratulations.
And I don't know how that happened, right? We adopted 2 boys out of the foster care system. So I have 2 boys in college. Yeah. So what was your question? What's the secret to a relationship? Oh, that's such a loaded question. Listen, I really believe some things that may be a bit unconventional with today's way of thinking, right? I feel like today people are so focused on, red flags and what they don't want in somebody. And sometimes you fail to remember like the good things about people, right? And I'm not saying that that's the secret to a healthy relationship, but I have kind of a controversial opinion, I think, on this. I actually believe that if you can find somebody who has, some basic interests, common interests, maybe similar core values, upbringing, family background, religion, spirituality, so all the fundamental core foundation elements. I believe that you can actually make a relationship work with anybody. I really believe that. And I think that, people become so focused on what they're looking for. Like, I want this, I want this. This is my list. Even when they hire a matchmaker, it's like, here's my parameters. This is what I want. Right. And I think that that's one of the reasons why I work so successfully with a lot of my clients is because, yes, I hear your list, but now here's what I see, right? So why would you pay someone to give you exactly what you're looking for? And if we match you with somebody that's just like you, then one of you is not needed. So ultimately, it's a balance of like who you see yourself with who I see you with. But at the end of the day, I really think that any two people with similar backgrounds can actually pursue a long-term relationship. I also think that there's like a lazy culture surrounding relationships today. Right. So it's so easy to just say, well, this isn't working for me. Let me move on. Right. No one fights for anything anymore. It's a very rare occurrence that you see people fighting to stay together and really fighting to work things out. Right.
To actually do the work that's required
So
to
that's
thrive.
yeah. So that's what I think, when it comes to relationships, because trust me, my relationship is very far from perfect. And literally had I'll call it a heated discussion, this morning, so right?
That means you're both alive in it, though.
Yeah,
You're awake.
Yeah.
You're engaged.
Yeah.
It's normal.
It's interesting having done, been in the matchmaking and dating industry for almost 21 years in 2025, so almost 21 years. I've learned a couple things. I've learned that the grass is never greener on the other side. That's the one thing that I really always have to remind myself. Like, yes, maybe I should just leave and find somebody new, right? But ultimately, it's going to be the same issues with a different name, right? It's the same, issues that you're always going to have. Um, the other thing that I always remember is that you have to pick your battles to win your war, right? So not everything should be a war. So these are little thoughts that are constantly in my head in my own personal relationship, right? And then of course I start to think about my clients and how, horrible of an experience they had with the online dating sites and the apps and how, exhausted they are with dating. And that's just not something that I would ever really want to get back into. So that also helps.
Yeah. Keeps you focused. So it sounds like you're saying with intention and the right value system, right? Am I getting this right? That you can be in relationship with anyone and find love and happiness and make it thrive.
I think you also said similar upbringing. So, say a little more about that.
Listen, I believe that I think there's two types of people. I think people are raised with very traditional values and people are raised with non-traditional values. So what do I consider a traditional value minded person? Usually, so don't quote me on this, there's an exception to every rule, but traditional minded individuals tend to be in a long-term relationship after long-term relationship. Right. And the non-traditional minded individuals tend to be in shorter term relationship after shorter term relationship because non-traditional minded individuals tend to recognize maybe qualities and characteristics in people that they're meeting that they're not really looking to be in a relationship with, or maybe they're recognizing that they can't see themselves with this person long term. Whereas somebody who comes from a very traditional background, meaning their parents were married for 30, 40, 50 years, these people people duplicate what they know. So if that's, no one teaches you how to be in a relationship. So you just learn from seeing maybe parents or seeing relatives in relationships, but ultimately people whose parents were married for a long period of time. And again, this is not set in stone, but they typically tend to be more relationship minded. They're not daters, right? And I think with that comes the willingness to conform to the other person, to be more willing to sacrifice, to be more willing to be a giving person, to be more willing to compromise. And that's great. But the downside to that is over time, resentment could build, right? If you're giving and sacrificing and compromising and the other person's not, it can feel like you're being taken advantage of. Unfortunately, many people or most people don't realize this until like 5 or 6 years into a relationship. When if you stop and look within the first 6 months of any relationship, you will see warning signs on whether you should be with that person or not longer term.
So, like in your relationship of 20 plus 24 years, like how did you avoid building resentment? And did resentment build and how did you combat it or manage it? And
Yeah, so both of us came from long marriages as far as parents, right? So I think that definitely contributed to the willingness from both of us being willing to compromise and sacrifice and give and do all those things that sometimes may be harder for someone who comes from like more of a non-traditional mentality when it comes to relationships, because if you're giving and you're not receiving, or so your partner is not reciprocating, then maybe that you can recognize it faster because you can tell what you don't want. Right.
They also don't have the role model, right? Like the divorce rate is higher for children of divorced parents because they don't really know what it takes exactly. They may intellectually know, but emotionally, right?
Right.
So
Absolutely.
the two of you were aware.
Absolutely. And I've seen the opposite happen where you've had parents married for 40 years and you're a non-traditional dater. And it's because what you've learned is, I don't want the relationship that my parents have. So you're so focused on not duplicating what you saw growing up that it actually forces you into the non-traditional category, right? So and I think that more than anything, what I'm talking about is awareness. Like maybe a lot of what I'm saying is resonating with you with like, oh, I can relate to what he's saying, or like, no, he's wrong. My parents were married for 40 years and I'm a non-traditional dater. I don't have long-term relationship after long-term relationship. But maybe you're trying so hard not to duplicate what you saw and how you were raised, right? So that can be a thing.
So the resentment piece.
Yeah.
Potentially, or maybe it's more of like what the type of life that you don't want, right? Like I don't want the type of relationships that my parents had. You know, and I don't know, it can both help you and hurt you. I think it's a double-edged sword for sure. But at the end of the day, this is what I truly believe. It's not that big a deal. It's just not like
what isn't?
Like, it's just not that big a deal. A lot of the
Like
issues that
nothing.
people create,
Yeah.
and a lot of and I don't. This is actually very controversial as well. I don't believe in red flags. I don't know if you know this about me.
I know. Let's hear about this.
Are not real. That's a fake thing that was created, and I think it's fake because I think red flags are simply obstacles that people just don't want to deal with, right? But at the end of the day, every relationship is going to have red flags, right? You know what when people call it red flags.
As a matchmaker, I'll tell you, and you probably can relate to this, both of you, because you do matchmaking. When people share their red flags, it's often coming from their past experiences, things that have happened in their relationships that failed, that they don't want to see happen again.
Right. Swing that pendulum way to the other side, you know?
Yeah, I can see that. But like I said earlier, sometimes you're still the equation that's consistent with everybody. The comments that's happening are you contributing to. So I'm not trying to blame anyone for anything, but you just need to like take a step back and kind of self-assess, like what role am I playing in this continuing to happen, right?
So when you bring that up to people, to your clients, because I know you coach.
I do.
In general, are they receptive? What's the response?
That's a great question. And I don't know how to answer that without making me look really bad. I guess the truth, I believe in transparency. I believe in truth. I believe in just saying what I really am passionate about and what I believe. And if you don't like it, I understand. And you don't have to agree with me. But there's something to be said about being a man in this industry. I think I'm in an industry that's 98% women, right?
Yes.
When it comes to matchmaking. And so I feel like, especially with women, they tend to listen to me a lot more. And I may say the same exact thing that you're saying. And for some reason, they don't listen to you as much as they might listen to me. And that's what I've seen through the years, is that women, and I don't know, maybe it's because I'm male and I kind of have more of a male mentality, but my matchmaking methodology also stems from logic. You know, I have a very male thinking brain, and I know might sound offensive, I don't know, but ultimately I believe that there's rhyme or reason why people are single. And maybe it's not a male brain, it's just my brain, right? So maybe I'm saying this wrong, but I think that my brain works, it's very solution oriented. I want to get to a problem so that I can come up with a solution. Right. So a lot of what I do is I ask a million questions, and I dig and I dig and I dig and I dig because I want to find out, why are you single? And so when I do these dating assessment calls, you know, through Agape Match, they're incredible. So not only I can literally tell you why you're single.
Yeah.
And it's mind blowing. And I think it's so eye opening, and people walk away, and I can tell you from a 1 hour, $300 call, it's expensive. Every single week, I get messages from women. They're in relationships. They're engaged. They got married Like I've had marriages from a 1-hour call, a dating assessment call.
Amazing.
So it's really rewarding, but it's pretty incredible. And I think something really magical happens when you can like be completely transparent. I always ask for permission to speak freely at the start of every call because I typically put my foot in my mouth at least 10 times on every call, right? But if I have permission, then that's ultimately what has to happen in order to get to the root of what's happening, right?
I imagine that many of them really truly want to know if they're willing to spend the money and they're willing to be vulnerable and sit in front of you and say, I'm ready for it. Like I'm here. I want to see things be different.
Yep. Yeah.
So
It's good.
in general, would you say that what you find is that they themselves create these barriers, these obstacles for themselves?
It's interesting the way you phrase that. They themselves create these barriers or these obstacles for themselves. And I think to a certain extent, yes, that can happen, of course. But I think people only know what they know. Essentially, you don't know what you don't know, meaning you only know how to do what you know how to do. So I don't know that it's your fault, right? It's not really a blame thing. It's just, you just know what you know. And sometimes you just need some help with telling you what you don't know. And that can change your whole life instantly, like it's instant. And just to touch on something else, on those assessment calls, I also include a strategy. So I will teach people how to maneuver and function more efficiently on online dating sites and apps towards the end of my call. But it's so much more effective than just a general call that you might have with someone else about that, because I am basing my strategy based on the first 75% of that call, which was understanding why you're single and why you're picking who you're picking and why you are doing what you're doing when you date, and why you pick who you pick and why you exclude who you exclude. I personally believe that most people have swiped past their spouse 3 or 4 times on an online dating site or an app, and they didn't see it.
And they didn't see it.
They missed it.
Yeah. Yeah. This is so mind-blowing. I can imagine. No, seriously, that from this phone call can absolutely change your life.
Right.
If you are open to it, if you're willing to be vulnerable, and you're in a place where you can hear and accept the truths, which is very hard for people to do, to accept the truth about themselves in an area where they think they should be really successful and they're not. So
yeah, and I think it has to be constructive, right? So like I think that I don't want to give people the wrong impression. I'm not just like berating them with with horrible things, right? It's constructive. I'm looking for like actual factual information and real reasons why they may be experiencing blockages or obstacles directly related to meeting their perfect partner, right? And they also have to remember that they're only half the equation. We're so focused on 100% of what we want, and we're only 50% of the equation. So the other person is the other half of that equation of what you're looking for. Are you what they want? Right? Do you have the qualities and characteristics that who you want to meet? Do they want to meet you? Right? And sometimes that's part of the issue is helping people better understand. And I talk about this. Like, let's talk about who you're allowed to swipe right on and who you're allowed to swipe left on. We're going to create actual procedures and protocols. And I will tell you that that's nothing bothers me more than people telling people what to do, but not showing them how to do it. You need to teach people how to do it. Give them the necessary tools. I will give you formulas that will actually work, right? So I'm not just going to tell you what to do. I'm going to show you how to do it. Yeah, that's the big difference.
So is there a way to actually successfully use dating apps today? Because what we hear all the time is like, my person is not on there.
Yeah.
I don't know where, like nobody on there. I can't see myself with anybody on there.
Right. Yeah, and I think that if you can't see yourself with anybody on there, like I'm always listening for extremes. When people use extremes, like words that are extreme, like you always blank, or there's never anybody, or there's nobody on there for me. That's not true. Every single day, people are getting engaged and getting married from people who they met on online dating sites and apps, right? So I think that that's not true. It's not working for you, and there might be a reason behind it. Let's figure out what the reason is, and then let's come up with a solution. Because once you get to the why with anything, then you can come up with a solution.
I also think if we think that it's a broken tool and we tell ourselves it doesn't work,
Oh my God, you're so right. That's so smart.
It doesn't work. Yeah.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Absolutely, it is, right? Yeah.
So I think what you're saying, and what I'm hearing you saying, is it's not that they don't work; it's how we're working it, right?
Yeah,
It's not that
potentially.
how
Yeah,
it's
potentially.
to be utilized.
Yeah. But it's interesting. There's a lot of moving parts to everything, right? It's not as simple as like, oh, these apps suck, right? There's a lot of moving parts to this. What is the age range that you're using, that you're searching? What's the demographic? What about ethnicities? What ethnicities are you not open to meeting? What about religion? Are you the more buttons you push on these online dating sites and these apps, the fewer options you're going to have, right? And there's nothing that bothers me more than, let's just say, a 35 or 36-year-old woman, which 36-year-old woman is the average age of my dating assessment calls. Just so you know, it's 36. Nothing bothers me more than a 36-year-old woman that when I asked, like, what is the age range that you're open to meeting? And she says, 30 to 38. So in my head,
Such a
it's a
small
2-year range, right? You should never date anyone younger than you if you're a woman, ever. Okay, especially if you're in your 30s. I have a theory. I have a philosophy.
Wait. This is an extreme opinion.
It is. 20 years of doing this, okay? And this is not just an opinion. It's based on my work, right? My life's work, really, over the past 20 years. And you're not going to find a study to prove this. And I'm sure there's going to be 100 comments on here that saying I'm wrong. Fine, I'm wrong.
I want to hear it.
You can say I'm wrong, but for 20 years I've been doing this, and at least the solid past 7 years I've been doing online coaching with people on a very large scale. And this is my conclusion. It's going to be very controversial for women. So
let's hear it. Give it to us, Louie.
Honest. I believe that 37-year-old men on online dating sites and apps, or single men in general, whether you're on an online dating site or an app or out in public at an event or at networking, right? At age 37 for men, 50% of 37-year-old men are going to waste your time. They are time thieves, okay? 50% of age 37-year-old men. So if you're dating a 37-year-old man, you have a 50% chance that he's really serious and he's not going to waste your time, okay? However, if you're a 37-year-old woman and you're dating a 37-year-old man, I also believe that every year younger than 37, you should increase the percentage of time thieves or men that are going to waste your time by 5 percentage points. Okay, so if you date a 36-year-old man, 55% of 36-year-old men are not really serious and ready for a long-term relationship leading to marriage. 60% of 35-year-old men are not really serious and ready for a relationship. Now, I know there's going to be a lot of 35-year-old men that are saying that's not true. I do want that. Well, you fall in the 40% because 60% of you don't want it, okay? Or you want it, or you think you want it, but you're going to 6 months in say, I'm not really ready for this, okay? So 65% of 34 and 70% of 33-year-old men are not really looking for a long-term commitment relationship leading to marriage. And I think that's kind of the threshold. So 33 and younger, it's 70% are going to waste your time.
Okay.
However, I also believe that every year over 37, you should decrease the percentage by 5 percentage points of men that are going to waste your time. So essentially, 38-year-old men, I believe that 55% of 38-year-old men are going to be more serious, right? 60% of doing the math, 37, 30, 39-year-old men. So 60% of 39-year-old men, God, I haven't done this in a while, but this is really
I'm so dyslexic. It's like, wait, what?
No. So 60% of 39-year-old men, 65% of 40-year-old men, and 70% of 41-year-old men and older are more ready for a relationship, marriage, and family. And I think that's the threshold.
So
Go.
I want real quick, and then Denise jump in. I have always been under the impression that men are less mature than women by, on average, 4 years. So we're talking about so that just makes sense to me because they're not ready. Yeah. They're not emotionally ready, and they have more years to play with than women do because our clock starts ticking if we want babies. Right?
Oh God, we can't talk about that on this podcast.
Okay, whoa, no.
That's a whole nother murder. Just a whole nother topic, but I'm not prepared to get hate mail about.
Denise, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, so the younger women should be dating slightly older is what I'm hearing you saying, right? So they shouldn't be dating, if you're 35, 36, don't date your age, date older, 40 plus. for.
Yes and no. I mean, listen, I've
There's no absolutes, though. I understand.
I've publicly said this a million times. Matchmaker Maria, who owns Agape Match, from the CEO of that company, she calls it like Louisisms, right? I believe that the more you have to risk, the more you have to lose, the less risk you should take. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I also believe that the opposite rule applies.
Okay.
If you have nothing to lose, then you should risk it all every time. So I think if you're a 30-year-old woman, clearly if you're meeting 32-year-old men or 30-year-old men or 34-year-old men, those men are in the danger zone ages that I just talked about as far as percentages of readiness, right? I'm not saying you shouldn't meet them. I'm saying that you have nothing to lose. So you should ask more questions on that first or second or third date, which is typically taboo. You don't want to know like what type of relationship are you looking for, like on a first or second date. Those aren't questions you typically ask. But for the purpose of not wasting your time, you have nothing to lose. If you think that they're going to fall into that category of someone who might waste your time, then you should risk it all every time. You have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the older you get, the more established you get, then the more.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And you got less time.
And you have
You also have to be more willing to make more compromises, right?
adaptability.
Right.
Yeah. I love when people say to me, it'll happen when it happens. And I'm like, really?
And it hasn't happened yet.
God, you don't want to know my opinion about this.
Come on, Louie, share it.
Give me these statements, and I have these thoughts that go into my head. I'm like, oh, that's not true.
Because we all hear it. We've been doing this work a long time.
So I'm about to blow your mind, women. Women, listen to me. Because I believe that you can make your husband happen. Okay, it's not just going to happen when it happens. You need to make it happen. How are you where you are today? Okay,
That's right.
Look at your life. How are you where you are today? So if you have a great job, you're an attorney, you're a doctor, you make good money, and you have a successful career or successful practice. That didn't just happen when it happened. You made it happen, right? You took the necessary steps to make it happen. I think the same rules apply when it comes to relationships or meeting your life partner. Make it happen.
Yes.
Right? Stop creating excuses. You can make it happen. I promise you can.
Yeah, like passively sitting back and thinking, oh, I'll just bump into them at the supermarket.
Organically.
Yeah.
That word is like the bane of my existence.
We're lying to ourselves when we tell ourselves that.
I'll correct myself. Make your partner happen, right? Not make your husband happen.
Yeah, I mean,
make your partner.
Yes. Whoever it is, whatever gender they are, whatever sexual orientation they are, just.
That's right. Make your partner happen.
Yes. Why do we make these things so complicated? Like, we overcomplicate things as humans. So frustrating.
Right. Because we want perfection. We want what we envision, right? We see ourselves with this perfect person, and we should have that because we deserve it, right? But
we're told
that you see yourself with in your head doesn't necessarily equate to who you should be with.
Yeah. But also, we're told that. The media tells us that. And more than ever today, I feel like the messaging is there and we don't realize. It's like it gets internalized and there's this undercurrent that's happening unconsciously all the time that's telling us that you deserve it. You're a catch. You have so much to offer. Don't settle for less.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So much of our identities are tied to external things. And it's
true. So maybe you should ask your friends, instead of like, why I deserve it, why do you think it's not happening? Like, be brutally honest with me. Go meet with your friends and have a sit down and say, tell me why it's not working. What do you think I can improve on? And like, maybe that might change your whole life when you allow others to tell you what they really see and not what they know, what they think they should tell you, right? Because they don't want to hurt your feelings.
Well, your friends, are they really going to be honest with you? That's the thing. Our friends want to tell us what you want to hear.
Right. Okay. Then what I want you to do is tell your friends, get 5 of your friends and have them each type out what they think you can improve on when it comes to who you're searching for, the men that you're dating or the women that you're dating, the people that you're meeting, the people that you're, and then have it be anonymous so that nobody knows who wrote what.
Yeah. And there's free surveys. Can't you do that? You can set that up for free. There's an online app for everything these days.
If it exists.
We'll make one.
Yeah.
We'll make one.
No, there for sure is one.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, because it's so helpful and so important to look to our peeps for feedback and to let them know it's okay. I don't expect you to, I want you to share with me the tough stuff. And I love you no matter what.
Right.
And we have that information already. In any relationship that we had, they told us what was going on, whether we chose to listen, but they've told us. So we know we just want to cover it up and push it to the side.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to go back, Louie, to what we were talking. I'm amazed by your over 2 decades success in your current relationship. Tell me when there's conflict, how do you do you have rules? Are there ground rules about that? Like, are you not allowed to go to sleep angry? You hear that a lot. Or do you already have a plan for when it's escalating and how to pause and step away? Like, give us an idea. How do you manage that? Because I know you have conflict. Who doesn't?
Yeah. What I think people forget is that relationships are cyclical. Right. So when you first meet someone, that honeymoon period that people talk about, right? And it's like, okay, what lasts from 6 months to a year? That's true. You have a honeymoon period. Everybody does. And things are great. And, it's really cute when, you start staying overnight at each other's houses and maybe he takes off his underwear and shoots it into the laundry bin and he misses and it's super cute. And
I see where this is going.
and then all of a sudden it's not so cute a year later, right?
He was like, can you freaking pick up your underwear for the bathroom? Why do I hear you picking it up?
He left his underwear.
Yeah. You want me to wash those things? Oh, no way.
You think I'm your maid?
Yeah. But, so that when I say they're cyclical, I think that happens with every relationship, especially over for me, it's going to be 24 years. And this month, this December 31st, I can't believe it's right around the corner. I need to plan something.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Is it your turn this year? Sorry, I don't want to get you off trust.
So turns. I think it's always my turn when it comes to planning stuff, like vacations or,
Because you're the planner.
Yeah.
And you accept that. You're like, that's my role. That's part of my
I'll
role.
do, but then I resent them for it when my birthday comes around and they're like, I don't know what to buy you for your birthday. And I'm like, I've given you 20 things that I want over the past year. Didn't you take notes?
Yeah. Haven't you added it to the notes section of your phone? That's what I do.
No. So I think that, once you have kids, your relationship of honeymoon period no longer exists. And there's a new period that's beginning, right? And you have to learn to recognize that it's a new period or a new phase within your relationship. And you have to adapt and you have to conform. And, it's probably ever changing when you have kids. And not for, 9 months until you have the kid, but for 18 years, 20 years, there's an evolution that's happening. I have 2 boys in college, right? So with kids comes a difference of a financial situation. Your spending habits are different. You have savings now for your kids for, whatever it is that they need. There's medical bills, not just for you and your spouse, but for your children. There's a whole bunch there's public school, there's private school. So that when you start, then you need a new car. I think
It's endless.
stresses that add to relationships that people allow the circumstances of change to influence the relationship. When in actuality, one has nothing to do with the other, in my opinion. I think that, as a partnership, you should be able to sit and say, okay, this is our financial situation. Let's figure it out together before we allow this situation to influence how we're interacting with each other, right?
The couple bubble. That's what you're talking about. At Stan Tatkin, I talk about that a lot. Attend to that first.
Right.
Your relationship first, and then you can, It's put on your oxygen mask first before you attend to the children.
And it's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, listen, I have 2 boys in college. Fortunately for me, they both go to Cal Poly, which means, it's a Cal State and I live in California. So that's about $10,000 a year per kid. So that's still $20,000 a year for college. And we're hoping our kids will not graduate with debt. So that's out of pocket, right? This is crazy. Now they both have cars. They have to drive to class, right? Rather than stay on dorms, right? Now my car insurance, I just found out literally a couple of days ago, is $8,200 a year. What? How?
I know, and they get you because I paid monthly, right? So you're like, oh, maybe it's not that bad. You don't even want to see the total.
Yeah, it's true. I pay monthly too, but I was like $780 a month. It was something like that. I don't know what it's like. I almost fell off my chair. I literally immediately went and called AAA and got a second quote, and it was $12,900. What was? So if I survived to my first heart attack, I would the brain after that one. Yeah.
If they only knew, right? Oh my
it's so
gosh.
bad. Yeah. So
Yeah. So, okay. So going back to the arguing. So I'm hearing this is you're not like, yes, there's going to be with more layers of responsibility and stress, there's going to be more experiences of disagreeing.
right. And let me tell you something. What we argued about this morning was so like embarrassing to tell you. And I'm gonna tell you what it is.
Yay.
What it will be. And it's the type of thing where you're like, are you kidding? And this was what happens 24 years into a relationship. We had In-N-Out for dinner last night.
Good choice. It's the only fast food I'll eat.
Yeah, I haven't had it in a long time. We have it. And they love to get the peppers in their burger, and I can't eat hot food, right? So they started looking through the burgers, and they couldn't tell which one had the peppers. So they were like, you find the one with the peppers. I'm like, well, can't you just look at the burger and see which one has the peppers? Like, and literally that's what we argued about this morning.
Peppers in the
We're literally because I didn't want to look at the burgers to see which one had the peppers in it. So it's stupid, really.
But wait, it was last night. How did it come to this morning?
Oh yeah, we're not the type. We're not
okay.
a family that's gonna like you have to resolve every issue before you go to bed. It's never gonna happen. Yeah.
So do you wake up this morning and act like nothing ever happened?
Like nothing happened. Nothing happened. It's not a big deal.
It's good morning, babe.
And
Here's your coffee. Have a nice day.
Last night I said, "I'm sorry, come eat."
Okay.
I wasn't really sorry, but I sent it.
Okay.
Oh, on text.
On text.
Because of course they left. They
You know what? This is making me feel so much better because I'll tell you why.
All the secrets.
You're actually not, you're doing some of the things you're not supposed to do, and you're still married. It's 24 years in.
Because the intention will not change. You're not leaving. This is just that kerfuffle.
Right.
Yeah. And we're in our feeling.
Yeah. The only problem is I'm talking to you from home right now, and they might have just heard what I said.
Oh, no, now you're really in trouble.
The only problem with the situation, but yeah. I'm good.
But really, at the end of the day, let's be real. Is this really about a hamburger and which one had the peppers on it?
That's what the fight this morning was about. It was something else. That I do
Carry over.
I clean, I cook.
Yeah.
And I ask you to do one thing and you can't do it. So yeah, it made sense.
Feeling underappreciated.
But it's still not my fault because they have a communication issue. That's all.
Maybe we need to have you both on the show, and then we can really figure it out.
We're gonna step out of it because we want the finger pointing.
No.
You know what? Relationships are messy. I think that's what I just really want to normalize. Like they're messy, and
They're never perfect.
No, and we do our best to we should be doing our best to acquire knowledge, tools, information so that we could get better at navigating them. But it's going to happen that sometimes it's just messy. And I think what you're saying is that you're in it. Like no one's walking away from it. You're committed. I mean, hell, it's 24 years.
Right.
You're doing the darn thing.
You're in it. Yeah.
But ultimately, wouldn't you rather go through life with someone than do it alone?
Absolutely. I would
sure.
fuss with me about the peppers. Then don't even have a fuss or anyone in the house with you.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So
the peppers are hot. Okay.
And until people recognize, like you did, Louie, early on, it sounds like you recognize that the grass is not always greener on the other side.
Right.
And whatever issues you're having now in this relationship, you most definitely will be having in your next relationship because they're coming up because they're unresolved in each of us. That's why it's coming up. So it's all learning opportunities to grow. Isn't that so nice? We get to be uncomfortable and force ourselves to grow. It's just like,
that's right.
Yeah, growing is painful. And it's a process that I believe we should be working on until we take our last breath.
Right.
Yeah. The more difficult I think it is sometimes, as long as everyone is safe, but the more difficult it is, the more reward, the more growth, right? The more understanding, the more compassion,
There was a book I read, and it was like so long ago. It was something like "Don't sweat the small things" or "Don't sweat the small
Just
stuff."
let the small stuff. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that book really changed my life. I'm not kidding. Like, it was such
It's a little
easy
book
read.
too,
It was a
right?
little book,
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
thin, and it was a little repetitive, but like ultimately, I used to let things really bother me.
Hmm.
Stupid things that really were nothing, right? And I think if you really spend one day looking at how many things bother you, and then like kind of do a self-assessment, like, it's not really worth getting upset over. And that little book that was such an easy read changed my whole life, because now all day, and it took me about 6 months. I'll tell you, it was a whole process. It took me about 6 months after I read that book, 6 months of telling myself, let it go. It's not that big a deal. Just let it go. Who cares? It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Just let it go. It's not a big deal. All day I would tell myself this because of that book. And after 6 months, all of a sudden, nothing was a big deal. And I would just let things go. And it wouldn't even be something I told myself anymore, because it was just no big deal. And I can tell you, if it's been like 15 or 20 years since I read that book, my life has been different now because of that book. Because I really took it to heart and I really implemented what it was saying. And it's not that big a deal. And the same rule applies when you date. It's really not that big a deal.
Yeah. So pick your battles. That idea. Don't sweat the small things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And pick your battles. Yeah. I think that's so important for us to hear, because it's so much more peaceful, right? When we're just not nitpicking or being petty and like these little things that are just like not worth it. How about we spend more time laughing and having fun together, being silly?
Yeah. Yeah. Easier said than done, I guess, sometimes.
For sure.
For sure.
Especially if you have stress in your life. Like, who are
Right.
you going to come home and take it out on?
Right.
Your partner.
Right.
Unless you got some outlets. That's what I go and lift weights. I throw those weights around and I'm like, woo.
Yeah.
Oh, darn.
Now I'm good after an hour of that,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
coping. Good
And
coping
just-
strategies.
Yeah, you lift those weights. It's funny. The match resource team, we spoke to you yesterday.
Yes.
A little before, like for this week, I guess. And of course, my son Michael is on that team, and he looked you up, whatever, and it's like, she's so pretty. She's so buff. She's so fit. Like, we had a whole conversation. Your ears must have been burning this.
Well, you tell him she's really stressed. And that's why she's so buffed.
So the bigger she gets, the more stressed.
No, like the bigger it's all from stress. It's my coping.
Stress. Yeah.
It was more like, Dad, why aren't you as fit as she is?
Jeez.
Oh, you need to go to the gym.
Well, Louie, you can tell us next time.
Stuff. I just let it go and eat a burrito.
Next time we're all in Mexico, because Louie and all of us get together for matchmaking purposes. We'll have to go work out when we're there for the week.
Gosh, no! I'll eat a burrito and go work out.
No, you should have a whole
feelings.
day. Yeah. You did work out though with some folks down there when we were there. Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Me?
Did you?
No.
I worked out.
I worked my hard with my margaritas.
Oh, I definitely worked out. And I tried to recruit other matchmakers, and they were like, yeah, me, okay, I think so. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Crickets. Nobody was there but myself and the weights.
Oh, I thought you were talking about having margaritas. I'm like, I would have been there. Weights? No, I wouldn't have been there. No.
But how sweet of you guys. Thank you. I will take the compliment gladly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good outlet for me. What about you, Louie? What do you do aside from the margaritas to cope with stress and all this? Like, you've got the kids in college and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I think that my life should be so much more stressed than I think it is. And it probably is so much more stressed than I think it is. We have Match Resource, which is a startup, which is doing phenomenal, and we're slammed. It's so busy.
say a little bit say, what is it? Tell folks.
Yeah, Match Resource is something that no one's ever done successfully, right? So we're the first of its kind recruitment company for the dating and matchmaking industry. So you've heard of a recruiter, right? So when you need a job, you go to a recruiter, and the recruiter finds you a job. Well, that's kind of what happens. Matchmakers come to us and they say, hey, I need matches for my client. Can you help me? So typically it's, a lot of their clients that maybe are a little more challenging, or maybe they're, have higher net worth, and they're harder to find people for those individuals, a bunch of reasons. And so, yeah, they hire us, and we literally find matches for them and present them to them.
And you're so right.
So valuable.
So valuable, but it has not been done successfully before.
And now it's getting to the point where like,
Good.
people are contacting us saying, hey, can we hire you as not necessarily our matchmakers, but as our recruiter? Like, I want to hire you to find me higher quality individuals. So now we have like a division that does that. And we have people that contact us that say, I want to work with a matchmaker. And maybe we can't work with them because maybe it's not really our niche, or maybe we don't feel that we can help them as much. And so we can refer them to you, right? Or we can refer them to other people. So people are now calling us and asking for referrals. Who can they work with, or who should they work with? And of course, that's what I do all day. I've been in the industry for so long. I know everybody. I know what works,
Yes.
doesn't work. I know what every company's doing. I know where they live and what they should do. And maybe it's not matchmaking. So sometimes they'll ask for advice. Should I hire a matchmaker? Should I do something different? And I'll tell them what to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just great. It's like literally what the company name is, Match Resource. So we're a resource for people and for matchmakers.
Do you feel like it's more mainstream now? Like people think of matchmaking as a possibility, as a resource? Like if they're out there and they're single, you think so?
Yeah. I mean, listen, the dating and matchmaking industry is what, like a $9 billion industry now a year? It's crazy. And I
Oh
think
my gosh, I didn't know that.
yeah, I think, I don't know, Google it. Maybe I'm wrong. You should Google it.
I will.
Yeah.
Not right now, but later.
I'm like, do it right now. And I think that they said like by 2033, it's going to be over $30 billion industry. And I'm like, 2033, that's like 9 years from now, right? Like that's crazy. So yeah.
Do we have to thank Netflix? Is it because of Jewish Matchmaker and also Patty Stanger, a millionaire matchmaker?
Yeah.
But for years, even though that show was out, I was matchmaking. All of us were doing it at the time.
Yep.
And I don't think people actually were like, oh, I should consider somebody like Patty for myself. That was not happening from my perspective. But now with Indian matchmaker, Jewish matchmaker, I feel like now it's actually happening where people know it's an option.
More common.
Yeah. I think what those shows are doing is creating awareness for people to want to start their own matchmaking company.
Oh.
Right? Because when you think about, when I took over back in 2004, was Deborah Winkler Personal Search, was Beverly Hills Matchmaker, right? And that company was going into insolvency, it was going bankrupt. So, I was hired I had a 6-month consulting contract, and we grew that company nationally. And we had 20 locations nationally, and I was the CEO of that company, but we were like gangbusters. Like it was busy. So I don't know how people had the awareness back then, but we were very busy with people hiring matchmakers.
Interesting.
And back then we had Kelleher, we had, just a handful of big companies, right?
Yeah. And they're still around?
Yeah, they are. They're still around. If you want to pay, hundreds of $1,000s for a contract, you can go to Kelleher. But, but now, we have I have a small boutique matchmaking firm. It's Matchmaking VIP. And it's, I take 3 to 5 clients. That's it.
Yeah.
Oh
my gosh, Louie, how do you do it all?
I know, it's crazy. I was thinking about that the other day. Starting up Match Resource. And we're like, if trying to see how many clients we're searching for and how many matchmakers have hired us and stuff like that, it's insane. I'm making it happen, right? So we have that startup, and then we have Matchmaking VIP. I'm the COO of Agape Match. And
you're coaching.
Yeah, I do coaching calls all day. It's
awesome.
Yeah.
We love it. And I love that you're doing this work and you're doing it in such a professional, ethical way. Mm-hmm. And that's really important to us, definitely. That's how we practice.
That is important. But what's funny? You use that word ethical, right? The industry, it's tough. There's a fine line when it comes to ethics. And I walked away from my last CEO post in 2012, and that was Elite Matchmaking, right? And, we had 20,000 active clients. It was a huge company, and there was 100 complaints filed against the company. And that's like, oh my God, you have 100 complaints. That's so unethical. It's really not. The complaint rate was less than 0.1% of our client.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. It really wasn't, but 100 complaints seems like a lot, but when you have 20,000 active clients, it wasn't. Right. Nonetheless, I didn't own that company. It was owned by a venture capitalist, by an investment firm. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, most of these big national firms, they still do that. They still take everybody, right? Because it's all about the bottom line. And that's why one of the big reasons, along with adopting the boys out of the foster care system, why I walked away from my CEO post in 2012 and started Matchmaking VIP. Mm-hmm. So I truly just wanted it to be very selective. And unfortunately for me, I think I didn't know what that meant at that time. So I, started Matchmaking VIP and I ran it like I did Elite because that's all I knew. So for the first 2-3 years, it was still like, this is a mess. Like, I don't like this. And that's when I just stopped. And I'm like, I'm going full boutique,
Yeah.
So it wasn't until like 2015, maybe 2016, that I literally stopped taking clients and was like, I'm going to only work with people that I really think I can help. And
Yeah.
it's been life-changing ever since.
Yeah, that's the way we do it for sure.
Yeah.
I can't imagine taking on anyone who I didn't feel like I could successfully match.
So true.
Yeah. So Louie, tell us, how can folks find you? And there's, all these different services that you offer.
Yeah, well, they can register in the Match Resource database if they, want to potentially get matched by a matchmaker's client. That's just matchresource.com. Unfortunately, the site was initially built just to have matchmakers go there and see what we do. So we're completely rebuilding it now. So the new site should be up hopefully in the next week. But they can also find Match Resource on the Facebook page and click on the link to register in our database at no cost, which is great. You can find, Matchmaking VIP is my boutique matchmaking company based out of Southern California. And I predominantly only take clients in California. However, I do have a new Chicago client, which is amazing, and 37-year-old doctor. So if you're a man in Chicago and you're between 37 and 48, looking to get married and have kids, get in touch with me. She's amazing. And then, of course, I'm the CEO of Agape. But yeah, you could find me anywhere on all the social media sites. It's just Louie Felix, LOUIEFELIX.
Great, Louie. Thank you.
Louie Felix.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us today.
Oh my God, this is so fun.
So fun. So fun. I know. And we planned this like 6 months ago. So I've been looking forward to it. Glad we made it happen.
A year ago.
All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Kisses, hugs. See you all next time.